This is Talk is Sheep, the official podcast of the Wild Sheep Society of BC, brought to you by Sitka Gear. Come along as we bring conversations that matter to you into the high alpine. This episode is sponsored by our conservation partner, Gunworks. Thank you, Sitka Gear and Gunworks, for investing in healthy wildlife and sustainable ecosystems. Well, Mr. Michael Southin, the face of the Wild Sheep Society of BC, the guy that's been in the trenches for a quarter century, and that makes you old officially, but welcome to the Talk is Sheep. Again, I know you've been on before, but we've not done the one-on-one, and I've been really stoked about this. You're kind of our equivalent of Omer. You know, you say what you think, and but welcome to the podcast, man.
Yeah, it makes me pretty popular and unpopular all at the same time. It's definitely a double-edged sword, that one. As long as you don't go into politics today, we might get through this without having a lawsuit on our hands.
Well, I'll tell you, it's good for the ratings, but it's probably not good for the society overall. So.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, like I say, if they're sending Jordan Peterson in for re-education, I could be fucking next if I start opening my app too much today. So,
yes.
Not that I'm comparing myself to Jordan Peterson, because good God, that guy's amazing. But anyways, and anybody who doesn't know who Jordan Peterson is, you better check him out online. Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're already in the shit here, buddy.
Yeah. Are we? Oh, shoot.
No, I'm totally joking. No, and that's going to be the cool thing about today is candid conversation about all the stuff we're going to talk about. But like Mike, you're one of the guys I really look up to, and it's interesting. Like in the early days, you've kind of been the guy in the background as a general rule. And I remember in the early days, it was I think Kopecky was president when I went first to the show in Kelowna at the time. And then the next year, like, oh, there's this president like Mike Southin. Like, who's that guy? I'd only been around for a year anyway, and it's like, and then I'm kind of got a little bit educated, but you know, you've had a lifelong of dedication to conservation, and you're one of the diehard hunters. We got lots of diehard hunters in British Columbia. You're one of them. But so and we started touching on it before we went on the air, but I'd love to hear a little bit about, you know, why you're so passionate about hunting. Is this something you grew up with? Did you have a 22 when you're 5 years old, or how did that work?
Yeah, interestingly enough, no, I didn't. I mean, I grew up in, of all places, Richmond. I mean, shocking. I mean, back in those days, we actually had pheasants in our backyard, and there wasn't that many neighbors, et cetera, et cetera. But I came from a family that was, on my dad's side, my grandfather, who I, kind of adored and idolized, was a very passionate, I wouldn't necessarily say passionate hunter. Loved the outdoors, did spend a bunch of time out there, but grew up in that recession era where, I mean, they needed to shoot deer and whatever else to survive. I mean, so he'd go out there and shoot as many deer as they needed for the family, the friends, etc. And, obviously at the same time, they were doing their predator management, which meant basically any black bear that moved was shot dead and left. And maybe in some cases they used them for lard and for boot grease and stuff like that, but they never ate the things, right? So, and then on my mom's side of the family, she comes with 8 brothers and sisters, and the entire Dab clan it was basically avid hunters. Whether it was uncles that were part of that group or uncles that married into that family. So I grew up sort of idolizing those guys and spending a lot of time on of all places, Vancouver Island, and I love Vancouver Island. Just hate that fucking ferry. But otherwise, I spent lots of time over there in summers, 2-3 weeks at a time, picking oysters with my grandpa, digging clams, walking down to the creek, finding fossils, etc. Things that, well, I shouldn't even say that because I still got some of those fossils. Somebody else might want those back if I'm not careful. But anyways, yeah, stuff like that. And then it just kind of morphed into what it is today. I started guiding in my 20s up in the Yukon, and I just fell in love with it. I don't know. I eat, sleep, and breathe it. Man, I wake up thinking about it. Can't stop myself. And whether it's off-season stuff, looking at gear, and just trying to keep myself busy, talking to buddies about hunting, looking at maps and poring over stuff like that. I just can't get enough of it. That, guns, fishing. Fishing's just fishing for me. It's just something to do when I'm not hunting, basically, right?
Right on. So, you talk about those early days in Richmond. What was your first hunt? Like, when did you first go out and kill something? Were you really young, or?
Yeah, I mean, I did do some trips with my dad and stuff like that. And I remember him going off he worked for the federal government, and we're from Canada Manpower and Immigration, which I don't know what the hell they've morphed into now. But basically, his job was to go to various places within the province that were having issues as far as maybe they're shutting a mine down, or there was some logging camp or something like that needed they didn't want to get rid of and lay off all the workers. Dad came up with a program whereby they wouldn't have to. So he traveled around the province doing this kind of stuff. So I got to, and in doing so, one of the things that stuck in my mind, and it's probably got to be my junior high school days, was him going off to the Queen Charlotte Islands and with his buddy Bill, who he was working with at the time, a private consultant guy, and just grabbing his rifle and I don't even know if he had a soft case at the time. I don't think he did. And Mom dropping off at the airport with his rifle in hand, and literally telling me the story later on that, I just sat down, took my rifle on the plane, sat down, flew to the Queen Charlottes, came back with a couple deer in their luggage basically, and sort of went on from there. So it was kind of neat because I watched that evolution of, at the time it was CP Air, where there was no issues with guns, and then the next time he went, which was just a year later, he was all put out because he had to spend $5 on a cardboard box that was a gun case basically. With a couple straps and some foam inside that he was able to then still walk on the airplane with, if you can believe it. Like, it just fucking believable. Like, you gotta love it, right? It's kind of like, I grew up in that era where the first thing I did put in my new pickup truck was a gun rack, man. Like, that's just what you did, right? And I do it today, except I just don't need to deal with the bullshit. So, yeah. So sorry, I'm kind of probably off topic there, but
No, it's really cool. So, when we talk about your sort of hunting resume, and I look at you, and for you, you've killed a ton of shit, a ton of big shit. And I know you're super passionate about a few things. Let's talk about sort of what drives that. So early days, you talk about deer hunting and that sort of stuff, and probably pheasants in the backyard in Richmond. How did that sort of evolve, and what are you stuck on now? Where does your brain go when you think about hunting?
Well, again, I didn't really finish the topic of where I started hunting. So with that and Dad, that was one of those things, and then we do an annual trip over to Vancouver Island, and it was usually a blue grouse hunt, or something like that. And always, of course, with being in school at the time, it fell on those, right before, whatever could happen right before he went to school, before Labor Day or over that Labor Day long weekend, etc. And then for a lot of years, and up until my probably 19 or 20s, I didn't do any other hunting other than that first trip in September type thing, which was usually a weekend type deal. And then we started going to Grand Forks, my cousin Al and I, and my dad and my uncle, etc. And we'd chase whitetails around there. And I didn't even shoot my first whitetail buck, or I didn't shoot anything until I was about, I want to say 19 or 20. And then it just went from there. So as soon as that happened, then it was just mayhem, man. Like say, if I'd be a whole lot wealthier if I didn't hunt, shoot, etc. Right?
Yeah,
it's an easy hole to spend money on. Yeah.
So it's a long ways to going from a grouse hunter and deer hunter to now like pretty diehard freaking mountain hunter. And, most of the stuff I hear and see you do, it involves like a pretty serious mountain or several mountain trips. So where did that really hook you in? Where did you get that hook on getting stuck on the mountains?
Well, probably that guiding in the Yukon would have been what really got me hooked. That was, you're in there for 2.5 to 3 months a year, living with your horses and the various clients, etc., and doing your thing. And again, chasing around the mountains in the Yukon, there's really, once you've been there and done that, BC is an amazing place, but the Yukon has just got a real romantic, I got a real love affair with it, put it that way. Like if it wasn't for my wife, I live in 100 Mile now, and I'm happy to be here rather than living in that fucking cesspool of the Lower Mainland. But I totally would just move to Whitehorse or somewhere up there and just live in a frickin' off-grid cabin in the bush and have my horses and do my hunts and giddy up. And so it morphed in from that into me doing those trips on my own and with my family and with friends. And now it's at the point now where, I do mine no matter what. Well, I'm going to do it until we're not allowed to. And we're not, don't get me wrong, we're not shooting as much stuff as we used to anymore. Like, we've all got numerous rams on the wall, and I don't really have any need to shoot anything smaller than I've already got. And I think that's a natural evolution for most of us sheep hunters. But I do have a desire to see my sons and his friends and anybody else that really wants to go. I'd like to be a part of that. I mean, even when I get old enough that I may not be able to hike up the frickin' mountains as much or chase the moose around the swamps as much, I want to be there, man. Like nowadays, like I say, I started off in August. I spend two to 3 weeks in August, and then typically all of September in the bush, and that's usually 1 30-day trip. And then come home, and if we've had a good season, whereby we've shot a few animals, the freezer's full already, etc. I'm usually fairly satiated. Like I don't have that real, I don't know, this need. I've got plans in my head. I mean, I keep thinking, hey, well, I got this nice new jet boat. I'm going to go out in the Thompson. I'm going to go chucker hunting, and I'm going to chase these chuckers around here, and I'm going to go goose hunting over here. And yeah, after I put on like this last trip that my buddy Colin and I just got back from, we did conservatively 100 kilometers round trip with packs on basically every day. And that's a big frickin' haul when you're 50 plus and doing your thing. And yeah, I mean, the wife, I think she's pretty fucking happy with me. I came back. I don't think I'm that much later, but she's pretty fucking, yeah, hey, look at you. You know what I'm saying?
You're doing it for her, obviously. You just want to look good
yeah,
for her. That's the only
it's
reason
all
you're
about
doing
the
it.
wife, my hunting passion and desires. You betcha.
Awesome. So if we look back and you started the guiding in the Yukon, were you doing some Dall sheep hunts up there, or was it moose and stuff?
Yeah,
like
no,
that?
it was always combination type stuff. 5 camps, 5 guides, 5 wranglers, 5 hunts through the year, somewhere between 4 and 5 Dall sheep hunts per season per guide type thing. So yeah, we were guiding Dall sheep right from day one, and I didn't have any experience. It was I worked for a guy named Rod Hardy who just passed away last year actually, and he sold his area in the Yukon, which is just east of Kluane, to a guy named Tim Mervin, approximately 20. It's got to be 22, 23 years ago, or maybe even longer. Yeah, it's got to be even longer than that. And anyways, yeah, those first few hunts, I met Rod at my taxidermist place in Richmond, of all places, and we got BSing, and sort of the last thing out of his mouth as I'm walking out the door is, hey, you interested in coming guiding? And I'm like, yeah, maybe, man. Like, at my parents, I was living in my parents' house in Richmond. My dad at the time was working for the World Bank, and he was in, of all places, freaking Egypt. And so I phoned him up, and I'm like, hey, we got to find somebody to take care of the dog in the house. And he's like, why? I said, I'm going to the Yukon guide, man. And he's like, what? I said, yeah, I'm going to the Yukon. What, you don't even know anything about the Yukon. I said, no, I don't, but we're going to go check it out, right? And anyways, long and short, Rod took me under his wing on those first 2 hunts, and showed me the ropes, and this is what you do, this is what you don't do, and that kind of stuff. I'm sure just testing the waters to make sure I wasn't a complete fucktard. And off we went from there. It was a good story. It was just fucking fun. We just had a great time. Other than, there's a lot of great clients, and there's a lot of fucking idiots too. But anyways, we shouldn't talk about that. So.
Okay, so you did that for a few years up there, and then when did you do your first sheep hunt? Was it BC sheep hunt as a resident, or did you get a hunt through them, or how'd that work?
And again, I don't even know how old they would have been. It was, well, my kids are 20. How old are my kids? 26? Kids are 26. Looking at the wife. 27, yeah. So the kids are 27. So my first sheep hunt in BC was when I met Chris, my present hunting partner, Chris Barker, and my buddy Ken Hamer. And we met on basically en route to our sheep hunting destination. We were hunting on the Upper Muskwa with Guy Scott, who was the previous owner, well, prior to Kevin Willis, and I can't think of the new fellow's name that owns Riverjet Adventures, but heading in there and doing our sheep hunt. And we anyways, long story short, we had a triple header that year, and nothing spectacular. They were just sheep, but we were all pretty excited to have them. Chris was the only one in our group at the time who'd already shot sheep. And then it just evolved from there. It was just, okay, well, that was cool. And then the next year came, next year I was back there again by myself. Things that make your wife and your mother really unhappy, wandering into the bush, sleeping with the bears by yourself, just you and your rifle, basically, or at least that's how they look at it, I think. And, I did that all by myself again, and it just kind of morphed into an annual thing. and probably not as regular. I let stupid things like work and family get involved. Work and family get involved with my decisions on whether or not I should go or not. And so there was a number of years there that I missed out on, right? And anyways, looking back, I sure would have liked to have had those years in the bush, but there was obvious reasons why I didn't go to. So
yeah, right on. So in terms of sheep, what have you I know you killed a ton of stones, but have you got all 4 or what's?
No, I don't have my doll sheep yet. I've got a number of good stone sheep. I've got a couple of doll sheep, and I don't broadcast this stuff. I'm not a scoring guy. I am I do like to know how big my sheep are, etc. But I don't enter them in books, and I don't put them on fucking Facebook, and I don't have enough tattoos, and my beard's not big enough to be a real fucking outdoorsman anymore, apparently. So, and I get, you're giggling, so you know what I'm talking about. The latest and greatest craze is these guys showing up, all tattied up with every fucking thing they've shot on their arms and their necks and their ears and whatever else, and a beard down to their nuts, basically, right? I think you got to have that before you're really not an outdoorsman, bushman. And these guys probably aren't ever going to talk to me now, but anyways, that's all right.
I think you're friends with lots of them, so they'll probably forgive you, at least the ones that know you anyway. So.
Well, and when I say that, my son doesn't have the beard, but yeah, he's got a picture of his grizzly bear that we shot in 2017 or whatever year it was that they closed it on his arm too, right? And then a mule deer and stuff. Yeah, so I'm going to get a bit of grief from him too on it, but anyways, it is what it is.
So when you think of your sheep hunts, what stands out the most in terms of a hunt? Like, did one come to mind, or even what
they're all, yeah. You know what? I don't know. I don't know. Man, I don't know. Like, is for in my world, and like I say, I've done a lot of hunting in BC and a fair bit in North America, and the sheep. I don't know, man. They're super cool, but none of them really stand out in my mind as the best hunt I've ever had. I mean, they're not particularly difficult. I mean, I don't want to sound cocky, and I'm not. They're not particularly difficult animals to hunt. It is a simple fact on them that you just got to know what fucking mountain they're on and what time of year they're standing there, which isn't that hard to figure out after some time in the bush. And they'll be there year after year after year. So it's never been a real challenge to kill sheep. Lately, it's been the challenge to improve on those sheep or to find new country. And I guess we're bitten with that bug where, you got to check out new country. And I was commenting to my partner this year, because Chris couldn't come with me. He's coming in with his son Jacob here in a couple weeks up into the Castiers for a few weeks on my month-long trip. But yeah, it's that desire to see new country and to improve on it. And like this spot we landed in this year was, yeah, I mean, it was a pretty wild trip. You're in the middle of nowhere, landing on an old frickin' airstrip with a Super Cub, and then putting 100 kilometers on your feet to do the round trip that we did in there to try to find these sheep, which we did. We found some sheep, but we never did find the rams. Although I do know where they're at now, Nolan. I mean, anyways, so yeah, I know where they're at. And whether or not I go back there or not, I don't know. Like I say, we're all getting older, and those are big trips, and these willow choked bottoms that are just littered with. I've never seen so much bear shit. I don't know what our fucking world's thinking when we can't shoot bears, and there's literally. There was one section on this trail that was probably I don't know how far it was. We were doing 6 to 9 kilometers a day, depending which way we were going and how we were traveling through, just traveling as such. And there was one with these willow choked bottoms that was so full of fucking bear shit that you would just expect to see one on every corner, and it was amazing. Like I've just never, even hunting the coast and stuff like that on those old worn down bear trails that are just sunk right into the old growth forest and stuff like that. I've never seen that volume of shit. And yeah, and our first night out, I know my mom's not listening to this, so I can say it, it was our second night out. We're camped up on top of a mountain, and we'd seen some sheep that night, and we're just tucked into the rocks, and it's a natural travel corridor. We're not on a trail as such. But yeah, I don't know, it was 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and you hear this shuffling of feet and huffing of a bear as it's fucking blowing by our tent, because we obviously, kind of surprised them. And thankfully, touch wood, we didn't have any problems. And I know I'm off on a tangent on bears, but it's starting to become a concern. And I mean, it's such a shame because that some of these poor bears are going to get shot and left, and just because there's people are afraid of them, right, and rightly so in some cases. I would be if it was trying to come through the fucking tent at me. But touch wood, and I've never had that issue with it. But I do know of people that have, and pretty frightening shit. And it's not going to stop us from killing those bears. But in saying that, like I say, some of these bears that we're seeing are just freaking monstrous old bears, and they're going to be a problem. People are going to kill them. So
let's talk a little bit about grizzly bears. So we kind of segued into that subject here, and let's
and
that's good actually.
Segued there on my own, Kyle, because that probably would be my passion if I had one hunt. And don't get me wrong, I love eating meat, and I love that harvest. I love going down to the freezer all through the winter and deciding what I want to have. What are we having? A moose roast, an elk roast, sheep steaks, whatever it happens to be. But if I had one hunt that I could do, and if I said I had one passion, it wouldn't be just hunting bears. Black bears just don't, for some reason, just don't turn my crank. But chasing grizzlies, and I killed my first one after they first closed the grizzly season, and I can't remember when they closed it and when they reopened it. When we had the change of government from NDP at the time to Liberals, they reopened the grizzly bear hunt, and I killed one that year. And I've been, and it was kind of like for a sheep, you just want to get one done. And would I shoot that same bear today? Probably not. Well, guaranteed not. But I've had the opportunity to chase lots and to shoot more than what I would consider my fair share. But a neat thing about hunting grizzly bears, and why I was so passionate about getting Mac, my son, out there to do it is again the country, and it takes you into places, especially if you're hunting on the coast or whatever, even the mountains in general. It takes you into places that you just would have no reason to be, pretty much, right? And just some amazing country. Matt killed his bear down in that Camano country, down below Kitimat, and it's just country that you really, I mean, you're a pretty small piece of the world down there, man. Like, it's just monstrous big country, frighteningly dangerous, with monstrous bears, big ass country, seas that want to fucking swallow you up and spit you out in fucking Japan, basically, and just neat places to be, and it's just. I don't know. I've shot big bears, I've shot medium bears, I've shot ugly bears, and now I'm looking for that combination. If we ever have a season again, I could probably hunt the rest of my life and not shoot another grizzly bear and be happy. But if that one that I've got pictured in my head was ever to appear in front of me, because I wouldn't stop at this point, being retired and still having lots of life in me, I'd do it for the rest of my fucking life until I couldn't walk, quad, or freaking crawl to where I wanted to go, or move myself around in a wheelchair. I'd keep doing it, right? But yeah, again, in saying that, it's at this point, if it was ever back, I would just, I'd be out there taking my kids and taking my friends and anybody that wants to go and look at different country and new country, and just fun stuff, man.
So spring season or fall season?
For me, I think what really turned my crank about it was spring, getting out and doing something other than, just getting out. I mean, out of that, again, I lived in the Lower Mainland most of my life, so just any fucking excuse to get out of that fucking cesspool was reason enough for me, and it just happened to be that was a really great reason. So,
awesome. Now, Mac killed a really great bear in 2017 when it closed, and probably one of the last grizzly bears killed in British Columbia. It was a super cool hunt, but that wasn't the biggest bear you guys killed. You killed bigger bears yourself, right?
Yeah, we definitely killed bigger bears. It was a good bear. It's neat hunting that. So that was a fall hunt, that particular one, and it's neat country because I don't know, and a biologist may call me out on it, but those salmon-fed streams are they're streams, rivers in this case. There's coastal bears that are very obvious coastal bears you see down on the rivers. You'll see them as the big old boars, the younger boars. You see family groups, and then every once in a while, and they're all the same sort of brown color, big, hairy, just super cool animals. And then you'll see these freaking gorgeous and smaller stature mountain bears. or at least I'm assuming they're mountain bears. I mean, they just look like a different bear. They're almost a subspecies type thing. Like they were just totally different bears than the other bears. So it was neat to see that. And you see them. I mean, the mountain. And again, I don't know if they were mountain bears, but those different colored bears react differently. They do their different things. We'd see the same bears over and over throughout the week or two that we were in there, and then every once in a while you see these newer, prettier bears poke their heads in and out and stuff like that. And we'd have them wandering through camp, and we're camped right out on the riverbank basically. And the bears every night. I mean, there's fresh tracks right beside our tents, and it's kind of like I say, we were pretty cautious about how we ate and how we stored our food, etc. But we never had any problems with them, and to this date, again, touch wood, we haven't, and hopefully won't ever have to deal with that issue of bears in our tents.
So, in your experience, you've never had a train wreck with a grizzly. Like, obviously, you get close. You've had them come by the tent, kind of the normal stuff you get in the mountains, but you've never had a problem bear where you're like
we've had problem bears, yeah, and a number that we've had to report after the fact that we've shot, etc. But typically they've been black bears, and
okay. Yeah,
I remember with Greg, again, Chris and I were up in the Tatsashini hunting grizzly bear one spring, and we were in camp. I believe we'd already killed my bear, and I just crawled into the tent, and I don't know, 10, 15 minutes later, I'm laying in the tent reading a book or something like that, and Chris is like, "Give me your gun." I'm like, "Why?" He says, "I'm going to kill that fucking black bear before it gets us, right?" His black bear decided to come and do its thing, and it was literally crawling in on its belly to see what the fuck we were all about and stuff like that. So we had to shoot that bear, unfortunately, and then we got back out to Haines Junction. Yeah, we ended up back in Haines Junction, and I phoned my buddy at the time, who was a SEAL, and reported it, and all good, right? I mean, but it's just it's a shame when you have to do it, and it's been getting more. I guess we touched on enough that it's getting more and more regular. It seems to be every trip. Last year we got charged again in our tent. We had a bear come through at nighttime, and we're camped on a spot that again was a natural travel corridor. But again, nowhere else to camp. And when I say natural travel corridor, it's kind of the only strip of land between this little pond and puddle and the side of the mountain. And this thing, again, lying in bed reading, my buddy Ken snoring away already. And it was the fact that we smelt so bad that maybe it just didn't fucking eat us. I don't know. But lying in the tent, and I had this inkling that there was that I could hear something, and I'm half deaf because all I've ever done is work with power tools and shoot guns, so it's my hearing's not as good as it should be. But I had this inkling that there was something moving out there, and it just didn't think much of it, just because it just didn't really sound like anything. And I clicked my light off, put my book down type thing. And like 2 minutes later, it just sounded like there was a horse galloping at my tent, right? And it stopped right at the fucking edge of the tent, feet down, huffed and puffed a couple times. And then, and at this point, my buddy, he'd left his gun in the vestibule in the tent. I got mine beside me, but I just got a little 7 Saum. And I think I was shooting burgers at the time, not really the ideal bear gun. But anyways, not to freak the bear out and give him a reason to charge, I kind of just got myself ready and tried to get myself sit up as quietly as possible. Didn't turn a light on. I got the rifle in my hand, and I got my headlamp in my hand so I can point it with the rifle. And I just slowly racked one in the chamber, and then opened the vestibule. It probably took me 5 minutes because I just didn't want to move too quickly if it was standing right there. And again, we're camped on moss, so you couldn't hear it. And opened the zipper for the vestibule. I passed Ken, 300 Weatherby, and then I opened the door of the tent and crawled out, and I got my light out there, and I'm looking, and the bear just fucked off. I don't know if he just didn't know what we were. He wasn't used to having that big Hilleberg tent in his natural travel corridor, or what the deal was, but he wasn't happy about seeing us there. And I don't need it to happen all the time, and if that's all that happens, that's fine. But I think, and you'll hear more stories. There's more guys. It's happening more and more all the time. These bears just aren't afraid of us anymore. So
yeah. Okay, let's go there for a sec. Let's there's the government's recently released this stewardship framework for grizzly bears, and they spent a bunch of money and came up with a 87-page report that's pretty fancy, and it talks about grizzly bear numbers and this and that, and touches on hunting, but doesn't make any recommendations. And they're going to spend money and they're putting this effort into it. What's your kind of take on all this? And, so I guess let's tee this up a little bit more for our listeners and society members. This is an opportunity to weigh in with a government plan around grizzly bears. And obviously, everything's on the table. This is a document that's going to go out to the public. They're looking for public engagement. It closes September 8th, I think is the date. And it's really important that everyone comment on this, certainly in our community, and get their feedback in. It's a little comprehensive, the document itself. So the society's taken the liberty to sort of synthesize it and go through it and come up with some ideas and thoughts on it and kind of provide some input. And again, this is just, from an organizational perspective, we've got our directors and our leadership team that have sort of made some recommendations. But that said, having the public weigh in on it, I can guarantee you there's people that don't like grizzly bear hunting and don't live in BC that are commenting on this, and we're not going to like what they say. So it's important that we all sort of do our part. They shut down the grizzly bear in 2017 based on a survey. I think there was roughly 4,500. They said 78% of the comments were against grizzly bear hunting. So less than 3,000 people or 3,300 people commented on this against it, and they shut down hunting because of it. So, we know what a management tool is. So Mike, I know you've been involved in this. You've looked at the grizzly bear management stewardship framework. Let's just talk a little bit about it, why it's important, and what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah, for sure, Kyle. It's hard reading, like you said. I tried commenting or answering the survey without reading it, and you almost could fumble through it. But they do ask some specific questions about certain things that were out of my bailiwick. As such, I didn't have the answers on some of the things that they asked that you would have had to read fully through it. So I did go back and read it, and whatnot, and it's dry as fuck, man. Like it's typical bureaucratic bullshit. But what it left me with was them talking about doing this framework, this stewardship plan for grizzly bears in conjunction with residents, or in conjunction and for residents, basically, is what they say. And yet, again, just like the first decisions, they were made with support internationally. So these anti-hunting groups, and it's not hard. You can write them out. I don't have enough fingers and toes to count how many there are. There's a lot of them out there. These guys all get in at the ground level and start commenting, and I don't know how the government weighs their comments in relation to a residence, but I expect if it fits their narrative that they weigh them on a one-to-one basis. Their opinions are as important as our opinions as such, and they typically do a better job of responding. We seem to want to wait for our organizations and groups to answer for us, take care of us, the wildlife fed, us, whoever it happens to be, and you can't do it alone. I do believe that all the various organizations, GOABC, et cetera, all need to have a stand on this, and I do believe they do. But we got to take the time if it's important, and it's not just about grizzly bears. These guys are talking about having areas that'll be grizzly bear conservation areas as such, and there'll be no hunting in these areas. And there's a few spots like that already throughout the province. So it also boils down to they're going to be taking more opportunity away from you, and we've seen that over and over again in this province, whether it's fires burning things down and this and that, and then not being able to go in there, for the time being on a short-term basis. But let's see what that looks like in a few years. I suspect it's just going to stay the same.
The key takeaway for me, and the one thing that the society's trying to advocate for, is people just need to weigh in with their thoughts, and certainly, it's good to get everyone's opinion, and just comment. Like, it doesn't matter. You don't have to toe the society line if you don't agree with it or whatever, but get on there and at least have a comment, because there's going to be people commenting there that are going to have a lot worse things to say about grizzly bear hunting in the province and grizzly bear management. And, is it serving the holistically, I know you love that word, is it serving, the greater wildlife populations well? And, we have all these conflicts and human grizzly bear conflicts that you talked about. The stuff is way more frequent. I know I was just on a trip, and I think we had 7 grizzly bear encounters Nothing serious, but again, there's just a lot of grizzly bears on the landscape. It was interesting that, just a side note, the Auditor General report that came out in 2017, I think they cited 15,000 bears, and the latest framework says 26 or 28,000. Obviously, I don't think it's grown that much. I'm not sure what number they're using. They talk about 10,000 mature grizzly bears, but grizzly bears are highly regulated. They're highly studied. There's a lot of data on them. And there's a lot of them in the province, and it's purely an emotional thing, right? It's like, and is it the right thing for the landscape? Is it good for ungulates? Is it good for wild sheep? Is it good for caribou that are now on the endangered species list, right? Yeah. The list goes on and on and on.
Well, I mean, and if we dumb it right down, Kyle, it's pretty straightforward. We humans have a giant impact on nature, whether it's where we live, whether it's mining, maybe whether it's road building for forestry, whether it's highways, whatever the heck it happens to be. And we don't seem to take into account, hey, I live on a golf course. Well, what do you think happened to all those black-tailed deer in South Surrey, which wasn't far from where I lived, when they started putting all these golf courses in? Those deer, I mean, I was on some of those farms before they turned them into fucking golf courses and into Morgan Creek, etc. And there was fucking deer everywhere. And those deer all slowly disappeared. And then where I was living in Langley, same thing. We'd have deer around us, and in various areas, they start building houses. Those deer, you start seeing them hit. You're moving them. They're getting dead on the road. Well, whose fault is that? Like, let's take some fucking responsibility. Like, you have to live there. You got to do this. You got to drive a car. You want to do this. It goes on and on. And so what I was getting at is taking us out of the equation on the management side of things. So we've built all these roads. We've got all this infrastructure. These bears, these wolves, everything uses these even these horse trails and stuff that we were walking on this year that I was talking about that were covered in shit. Those bears walk the trails. Those bears walk the roads, et cetera, et cetera. There's going to be problems. They're moving these bears. We're moving these wolves into areas where they wouldn't normally be, and they're having an impact on ungulates. I mean, and don't tell me these bears don't eat calf moose. I mean, we know from studies in Alaska, et cetera, that these things predate heavily on calf moose, et cetera, sheep, whatever it happens to be, man. They're out there eating it. And we seem to just disregard that impact because they're fuzzy and pretty. But what about these fucking poor little bears? I mean, poor little moose and the deer and stuff like that. I mean, it's just crazy, man. I don't know why they seem to think one's more important, and they'll probably say that that's not the case, but that's what they're doing. They're putting one ahead of the other without any second thought about what the impact of letting them be unmanaged and whatnot is happening, or the impact that's having on the other species, right? So.
Yeah, to your point, the October 2017 Auditor General report, which is widely available online, and we'll have it up on our website too, so people can click through it. But it clearly states in there that the greatest threat to grizzly bear is not hunting, but rather human activities that degrade grizzly bear habitat. It's clearly laid out by the Auditor General, who is not a hunter. They're not a special interest group. They're looking out, they're auditing this, and that's the narrative. And it's interesting, this grizzly bear framework document, really it references hunting, but there's no recommendations to revisit it or look at it or anything like that. And they do, in that report, go on to talk about how the grizzly bear hunting was stopped in 2017 purely based on social values. They talk about it. It's not the terminology they use, but it was an emotional decision. It was based on what people want to see as opposed to science, which of course we're always barking up that tree about science-based wildlife management. So pretty frustrating. And the thing that gets me, Mike, is that we're seeing these higher incursions, these more bears on the landscape, like you talked about, and our ungulate populations are decimated. Talk to the guide outfitting community. It doesn't take rocket science, and talk to biologists, and they're just saying there's too many predators, and that's decimating, habitat loss and all these other things, but there's too many predators, grizzly bears included, that are decimating these ungulate populations, and it's a true problem. Wildlife managers can't use a management tool to remove them from the landscape. The only tool they had was hunting. If it goes to species at risk like caribou, then they can, and they have, but you have to wait until it's almost gone before you can do something. That's ridiculous. I just don't get the logic.
No, there's no logic there. It's politics, and politics really, it just shouldn't be able to even weigh in on this kind of stuff. There's no reason for it. They don't want to manage it anyways. I mean, the government, they don't want to deal with wildlife. They just don't. I mean, it's a no-win situation for them, except in a situation like this where they can garner votes by going after those votes in the urban areas and saying how cute those bears are and let's not shoot those bears, etc. But it's short-sighted, man, and it's going to have dire impacts on our wildlife population, and it is, and there's more bears out there than anybody really has any fucking idea about. So.
Yeah. So anyway, for our listeners, go to the wildsheepsociety.com, click on government engagement. It's on our homepage, and you're going to find the framework there. But it's really important that you get out and get involved in this, commenting on this. We're going to put a bunch of emails out this coming week, or actually, they'll have been out already. We drop this next week. And it's just important that everybody comment on it. And it doesn't matter, even if you don't want a grizzly bear hunting back, get on there and put your comments in and make sure your voice is heard. It's really important that we all comment on this. And because I guarantee you there's people out there that are going to say some pretty bad things about grizzly bear hunting, and it's not going to serve us well. So we need to do our side and our part. And I can't believe in 2017, less than 4,500 people commented on that. Like 110,000 resident hunters in British Columbia. Man, how can't we do better than that? It's
yeah, you would really think so, and I don't. Yeah, again, I can't help but think that. I mean, there's not everybody's as passionate about hunting as you or I, or as our friends and members of the Sheep Society, etc. But and I'm not pointing fingers, and maybe people just are resting on their laurels, thinking somebody else is going to do it for them. But in today's world, we got to step up, or we're just going to get steamrolled. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we are getting steamrolled. Even when we step up, we're getting steamrolled.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, let's get away from that for a minute. And the one thing I want to talk about, you're super passionate about gear, man. You are a freaking gear junkie. And is Lanny in the room there?
Yeah, she's in the kitchen right now. But
she's listening. It's like, oh shit, you bought that. Let's have a chat about gear. I know you're super passionate. I know you're crazy about firearms for sure, but goes well beyond that. So let's talk. What's the latest and greatest? What's your latest piece of gear that is a must-have?
I don't know. Latest, greatest. I came back. It's funny. You're always learning. You're always picking stuff up. And I came back from that sheep hunt, and while we were in there, I ran into one of our other members who's a guide up in that same country, and he rolled into. We were camping. Well, actually, in their camp in our tents there, and they rolled in on day 14 of our trip, and they rolled into camp without clients, and they'd been moving camp, and I got looking at what he had for gear, and we had 2 days there waiting for weather and stuff like that, and started looking at what he had, was packing for a tripod in this particular case, and some other neat little tidbits of stuff they had, and so the latest bit, and it's just sitting at Canada Post right now that I've got to go and pick it up, is a carbon fiber tripod by a company called Aziak, I believe, Aziak, which I looked at what he had, and he's running an 85 millimeter spotter. I'm just running a 65 at the moment. This thing's a whole full pound lighter than my existing outdoorsman tripod. And as you know, when you start looking at weights, and I'm terrible for it. Like if I find something that's 1 ounce lighter and it's $100 more, she's fucking looking at me again. I'll buy it, right? I mean, I'm just terrible for that. I mean, I'm the guy that cuts his handle off his toothbrush and that kind of shit. And I do that, and yet at the last minute, I'll be the same guy who throws in a package of frickin' sausage or a bunch of cheese and crackers or something like that for snacking on the bush, because I also want my creature comforts if I can help them. So in some cases, I'm going lighter on some things just so that I can have some of those creature comforts. And again, trying to keep our packs down. It all counts. I mean, and so when you get into these new Stone Glacier backpacks, which I just bought one, although I was using it this spring, summer for training here. I was packing water in it, is what I was doing, and hiking up the hills and doing my thing, et cetera, et cetera. But I still had to go back, and hopefully Stone Glacier's not listening to this podcast, but I had to go back and take my Kafaru pack just because I was going on this monstrous big trip, and I didn't want to rely on a brand new pack with to me basically an untested frame for that kind of duration. I went right back to the same pack you're running, because I bought the new bag there the other year or whatever, And that's, I don't even know, is that the doll? Not the doll bag.
It's the doll, yeah.
It's the doll.
Yeah.
I bought that, that, and I think Colin Peters runs the same one, and you've got it now. And yeah, anyway, and the same frame, because I had the frame. I've got a couple of those frames, and they work amazingly, and they just pack a load. So I chickened out because it would have saved me 2 pounds over the Kafaru, 2 and change, I think, actually, over the Kafaru if I'd gone with that Stone Glacier. What's it called? Do you know the new Stone Glacier pack?
Terminus 8700.
Terminus 8700, yeah. And beautiful. Like the year before, I'd bought one from Omer, the 7000, and I tried cramming all my gear in there, and we only had 11 or 12 days worth of gear, and I couldn't get all my gear in, so I couldn't even get all my food in that 7,000 cubic inch pack. So I'm like, fuck this. Omer took it back, and again took my Kafaru, and between that, again, going back to weight, that tents and stuff like that. Probably the biggest thing, and I know you bought one after I mentioned it to you, and a couple of other members have them. Dan Durston, a guy is he out of Golden or Revelstoke?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's somewhere in the Kootenays there, but I'm not sure where.
Young guy. I don't know that he's a hunter as such, but he makes these amazing. I was going to call them sil nylon, but they're not. They're still polyester, or in our case, we bought the Pro models, the Durston X-Mid Pro 2. You and I both bought 2-person ones. And it's Cuban fiber, real neat material. I've been running that on a couple of other, and I know you have too, on some pyramid type tents and tarps as well. I run a tarp made of Cuban fiber, and just that much lighter than everything else. And these big items, like I say, that you got your tent, you got your backpack, you got your sleeping bag. And now in this case, this tripod, which isn't a big item, but it is when you can save a pound on it. I mean, you save 1.5-2 pounds on these, or 1 to 2 pounds on each one of these items. It's a significant weight savings on a 10-14 day trip. And I know most people are only doing 9 or 10 day trips, but I mean, where we were this year, we were both commenting if we'd had one more day to rest and recoup, and could have packed an extra 5 days worth of food, really, because that's what it boils down to. And we probably could have. I mean, again, we're only 50. We're both 53. Am I 53 on here or 54? Who fucking knows? Anyways, I'm turning 54. There you go. So, anyways, if you could have packed that extra gear, you would, and that would have at 1.5 pounds for food a day. For an extra 4 or 5 days worth of food, 5 days worth of food, 7.5 pounds, as you know, and it's not that much. But it would have given us that ability. So if you're saving on everything else, you can pack the extra bit. As it was, I've been using a program from, how is it? Lighter Backpack, Pack Light. I can't remember what the heck it is. Lighter Pack, Backpack Light, something like that. Where was I on? I was on another site on, what's the one that Schneider was involved with originally there, with backpacking gear and stuff like that. Oh, shoot. I'm losing it. Anyways.
Not sure.
Yeah. So this particular one gives you a spreadsheet, actually, and you can organize the gear how you want to organize your gear, and you can be pretty religious about going through and make the list, weigh every item, which I do. I've got a nice little digital scale type thing. You weigh it all, add it all up, but the program adds it all up for you, and then you can pick and choose stuff that you're going to want to take, whether it's an early season hunt, a September hunt, that kind of stuff. And as long as you don't disregard the list, which I have a tendency to do after the fact, your weights should be pretty good, right? But in saying that, like I say, all in, and this gives you the ability to weigh your own, to include your own clothes, your everybody weighs, says, hey, I go sheep hunting for 7 to 9 days, whatever. I got a 45-pound pack, and I'm like, you guys are full of fucking shit. Yeah, they can't eat. They can't be eating anything. I don't know. How do you do this? And most of us aren't through hikers, so we got to have more than 1 pound of food a day to keep or sustain our bodies, right? And anyways, long story short, I think the variation ends up being in how people what they're weighing, basically, and what they're scaling. I mean, if you're just going to weigh your backpack without food, or you weigh your backpack without your water, as an example, but you pack 3 liters of water, but you don't factor that into your overall bag, your overall weight, then you're not giving yourself a true, scale to what you're actually carrying. So, long story short, when I started using that program. It's Lighter Backpack is what it is, and I started using that program, and you can add this in. You can add the clothes you're wearing. You can add your binoculars, whatever you want to do, and you can sort of see the various categories on what it is that you're weighing and how it's organized. It just gives you a really good feel. And on a 14-day trip like we were, I was just shy of 70 pounds with my rifle, with my Gunworks, and talking to a couple other people, I'm like, that's not possible. Like our buddy Corey Green there, he's like, that sounds really light. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I'm down to, and we both, Colin and I, packed our own tents this year too, but I packed that Durston tent at 2.5 pounds?
It's less than that, man.
Well, I packed it. I threw some extra rope in, on some extra cordage on some stuff, and then I was packing those bigger poles, right? And I put a drop sheet under mine.
Okay.
I was running a steel nylon drop sheet. But anyways, I mean, to call it 2 pounds even, it was just a real neat deal. The only thing I didn't like about it was having to wipe it down with my pack towel every morning from the condensation from my breathing. And I'm sure that two of you guys in that tent must have been a challenge too, eh?
Yeah, it was a bathtub in there, man. Like it was good. I liked it, and it was like we run the Bear Paw before. Yeah, and it was good. I liked it. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's got limitations. And the one thing about it is you got to find flat ground, especially if you're running two guys. And we pardon my language, but we had one night where it was like, it was not good.
I was thinking about you guys, Kyle, because there was, I mean, again, on our travels into this spot that we were hunting, I mean, you're not up on top. You don't have the flat ground. You're traveling in the bottoms in a lot of cases. And I was using the 2-person as a 1-person. So I had the ability to take the middle of the tent, to put my head where I wanted it. But I can imagine that particular tent design is designed that you'd have a 1-person's head at one end of the tent, 1-person's head at the other end of the tent, just because of the layout and how it is. And you would be really hard pressed. There was a few spots there where, I mean, you'd wake up and your head would look like a fucking beet, man. Like you'd have one guy would be freaking, head a foot lower in some cases. I mean, it was really challenging pitching in a few places that we were at.
That's exactly the problem we had. So we gone and we were done at the end of the day, and got to the point where we're done. We're not going any further. I was toast, and in fact, I needed water. We were out of water, and Mike's like, he had some gas in the tank, so he ran and grabbed some water, and we're like, we're setting up camp here, because I'm like, I'm not going any further. I'm done. It's either that or drop down, and we didn't want to drop down, obviously. So we just set up, and it was, honestly, I took a picture of it, Mike. It was 15-degree incline, I'm sure, but it was steep. And the problem, like you said, is that it's designed so that there's lots of headroom if you do head to toe, right? No problem. But if you're both at the same end, the one guy's got zero clearance. So we were like using hiking poles, and we were like kind of had it propped up, and then Mike had. Oh, it's interesting. I got an Xtherm Light, really cool. I love it. Great pad. I bought it from Bob in Kelowna in 2013. So 10 years old. Awesome. It's got really good stick, and I never slide. Mike keeps going through pads, and he bought the Xtherm, and super light, good R value. But again, there's no adhesive on the bottom. So he's just like a skidoo coming down. Like he kept piling up at the bottom of the tent. He was just like piled up. I looked down, and he's literally 4 feet below me, man. Like, I'm not kidding. Like he's like in a little ball down in the corner. I'm like, what the hell?
I know.
And had a horrible sleep. But so that's the knock on that was uneven terrain. You need to find fairly flat. And there were a few times where we're sleeping head to head. Fortunately, it was like we had good clearance, and like I slept the one time with the low head clearance because it was just that, if there's a bit of an incline, if you got your feet up in the air, it just is weird, right? Like,
totally.
It was okay. It worked out well.
I was feeling bad for the guy who was going to be sleeping in a head-to-head situation with the head and the foot box of that tent being slightly at an angle. The one guy's head, you're not head-to-head. You got some guy's head is sticking in your armpit, basically. So whoever that poor bugger is on day 3 or 4 is just going to be having a great time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like you said, there was quite a bit of condensation for 2 guys. It was pretty. So I know Chuck Peeling, he ran it too, and Chuck said, he just had the fly. He just somehow pitched it so the fly was a bit higher.
And
maybe that worked.
But again, depending on the situation, and it does. Again, if you're on flat ground, it's really easy to pitch with the fly higher, but not so easy when you're on uneven terrain. And anyways, I liked it. Got limitations. Would I take it again? Absolutely. Would I just pack it for me and my dog? Absolutely. Like I'm at the point in life where I'm thinking, hey man, like maybe my hunting partner can pack his own fucking tent, and I'll just keep
Yeah.
being my dog.
Yeah. I'm with you. I after this trip, I was like, because at Durston, I just looked. You're right. It's exactly 2 pounds. I threw a couple extra pegs in there at your urging, a couple extra guy lines, and it was 2.001 was what it weighed.
Yeah, and you had
so right at 2.
You had the floor, the not the floor, but the ground sheet on yours, or no?
No, I didn't put a ground sheet. Like it comes with a bathtub bottom, of course, but I didn't put an extra ground sheet on it. So
I don't generally run them either. Again, from a weight saving perspective, but at $1,000 for she's right beside me again. She's looking at me. $1,000 for a tent like that. It's just like, yeah, I'm going to throw one of these under it, because you don't know what you're sleeping on. Half the time we're sleeping on rocks, and you start cutting those steel nylon bottoms, and they ain't worth a shit at that rate. So. But yeah, I mean, that was the neatest piece of gear that I ran this year. I'm excited to try the new tripod, which I will take here in September if that's what is actually sitting at the post office for me. And what else was there? Not a hell of a lot. Oh, and I just got it the other day actually from over there. That new Gunworks bipod. Well, that's a pretty slick looking unit. It doesn't weigh.
It's good, eh? You like it?
Yeah, I haven't shot off yet. I'm going to hopefully do that this weekend. Is it any better than what you and I are already running? Probably not. But it's 1 ounce lighter. So, and honestly, in a mountain setting, it probably will afford you more options on your ability. It'll drop down lower. It'll work at different angles. The legs will work differently. I think it does give us some options, but you also can't. I mean, you need to go and shoot it. Like you need to go and get out in the bush and shoot off that thing to be familiar enough with it to take advantage of it in the bush. But no different than any of these long range guns too. Everybody seems to think they can buy a Gunworks and they're automatic fucking snipers, right? Doesn't really work.
I didn't tell you this, but with our doll. Mike's got a Spartan, I think, on his, which I've got the Atlas, and I love it. There's some of the things the Spartan where I was like, not sure. Like you can't hike with it on, right?
No, I never do either.
Can, right?
I always have mine in my pack. So
yeah, fair. So, but Mike just said like for him that was so he shot his ram. He was 360, I think I ranged him at, and he just said like with that bipod and he just said it's so freaking solid. He just felt so good, and he knew it was going to be a good shot.
Nice.
And he shot, and you hear it hit. We couldn't really tell where it hit. I knew he hit. We both knew he hit, and the ram turned like completely away from us, so he was directly facing away from us. And there's kind of some escape terrain right below him there, and there was a couple of rams with them. They were kind of weirded out, and we're just sitting there waiting. And I'm watching him through the binos or maybe the spotter. I can't remember which thing I was on. So I could see really well, and I could see his legs start to go, right? It's right at that point where he's just going to flop over. And Mike's like, he goes, Kyle, I just don't want to risk it. And I'm like, yeah, go ahead. And so jams another one in, shoots, goes down, shoots him, and he just drops down. So we get up to the ram, and we're looking at him, and there's the entry shot, perfect shot. It was absolutely, he was dying for sure, but it solid call to do the follow-up. So the second shot was the old Texas heart shot.
Right.
And I'm not kidding, man. There was his ass, and if you looked, there was probably a 1/4 inch of skin, and there was an entry wound and where it went in. And we're like, okay, well, where did it come out? Like, and how much did we destroy this meat? Like, we're like, the meat's probably screwed, right? And we gutted this thing out and went through and got the meat off. It went straight through his ass, like a 1/4 inch to the left of his asshole, all the way up, and it broke his jaw. His jaw was broken when he got up there, and went in his face, in his skull, broke his jaw, and didn't come out.
Oh,
so it's somewhere in his head. And honestly, so we're doing the meat, and I've never had a bloody pack out like that, man. We didn't lose an ounce of meat. There was nothing. The meat was perfect. Like it was, I can't even believe it. You would have thought that hind quarter was probably messed up. Like we trimmed maybe a little bit, but honestly, it was a little bit of bloodshot. That was it. There was no loss at all. It was the best kill shot. Well, it worked.
It worked.
So,
yeah, no doubt. Bizarre. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, thinking about kill shots and stuff like that, we've all all have or do shoot magnums or have shot magnums, etc. And years ago, I started hunting with some European calibers, and the one I've shot a lot of my animals with is a 9.3 by 64, and it shoots I shoot a 286 grain partition out of it. And Chris and I, again, we're up in the Northwest Territories, and we're hunting moose up there, and I shoot this moose like right through the shoulder with this thing, and I'm expecting, oh man, like here we are, like I'm just blowing this poor moose up, and get up there and skin the thing out and do our thing, and you could literally cut a half inch around that bullet on both sides.
Wow.
and away you go. It was unbelievable. It mean, slightly slower. Like, I guess, I don't know if it's a combination of bullet weight, velocity, whatever. I mean, there was I don't know if I hit bone or not. We must have hit bone on that. And anyways, yeah, we were able to salvage every last scrap of meat. And I noticed that I've shot polar bears I shot most of my grizzly bears with that caliber, and all sorts of things, Roosevelts, buffaloes, etc. And yeah, it just works. It just works.
Huh.
But
that's awesome.
Me raving about my.
Yeah. What were you carrying? These 7 SAUM in the mountains on this one?
Yeah, I had that Gunworks cut that I bought from Homer. So that's in 7 SAUM. Yeah, little barrel deal. It's not super light. It's again an interesting gun. I've got a couple of Gunworks guns, as you know, and that particular one is the lightest, also the most difficult to shoot consistently. It's one of those guns. It's not as bad as trying to shoot some of these lightweight Kimbers, etc. As far as shootability, and I guess shootability is one of those things that until you shoot them, you don't really know what shootability is. If you're one of those guys that goes and shoots 3 shots a year, shootability probably means fuck all to you. But if you shoot them enough and you have enough guns that you shoot different firearms, then you can go from one gun that just every time you squeeze the trigger, the gun just fits, it all works, etc. It's an easy gun to shoot for lack of any scientific terminology. Whereas what I found with this lighter gun, just with the caliber, possibly with the lighter weight of it, off of bipods, and we're shooting. I just finished taking a shooting course here with. Who did I take course with? You know who he is.
Furlong.
With Rob
Furlong.
Thank you. So yeah, he was doing a long range shooting course in Prince George. They're out of Alberta originally, or they come from Alberta, do the course here in PG. Super well worth it. I'm a reasonably experienced shooter. I do a bit of it, but I learned an awful lot. Some of it really just reinforcing basic principles. But what I was getting at is again just one gun being that much different, and you hear the story say, beware of the one gun hunter, or the guy that's only got one gun. They probably know how to use it, and I do believe there's a lot of truth in a statement like that. But in saying that, like say, if you shoot enough, and what I was alluding to earlier with, hey, you buy a Gunworks, it doesn't make you an automatic sniper. It frickin' doesn't. You got to get out there. You need to shoot you need to shoot. If you're one of these guys that wants to push the yardage and push the extremes, and I'm not one of those, but I do like to have the ability, if I need it, to be able to be confident a little farther than I want. But again, I hunt with a bow hunter, so most of the stuff we're shooting is lots of times Chris can't get her done, and I'm the guy standing on the other side of the rock shooting that sheep at 70 yards instead of 50 yards with the bow, right? So that's the kind of stuff. So it's not as important to me, but you've got to practice, and I can't stress it enough. And it's not just practice; it's when you go to do these courses. You and I know I've got the odd bad habit. You possibly do as well. You learn what to do, what not to do, and then reinforce it, and it just becomes simple, basic principles that you follow through each time on every shot you make, and. It's just well worth the money, is all I can say. I don't know if it's made me a better shot, but it's made me more confident. I'll probably take the next level 2 course. I'll maybe do the level 3 course moving forward. It's just that kind of stuff is just, if you're an avid hunter, avid shooter, do it, man. Do it. Or shoot with somebody who really knows what the fuck's going on. I've got a couple of friends that are exceptional shots and exceptional shooters, but these guys are guys that shoot a gun barrel out once or twice a year. That's how much shooting they do, right? So none of us do that. So
Well, and if you're buying these high end firearms that are capable of 1,000 yards, and if you don't know how to use it, what's the point of having it? You might as well just have one that'll shoot to 400 anyway or 300, and not spend that kind of money. Because you invest all this, and I kind of feel like I'm at that. Like this gun is way beyond what I'm able to shoot, and I'm comfortable now. Like I go to the range and shoot 500 yards and really nice grouping, like sub MOA, and I'm comfortable with it. But I also know that if I had the training, I'd shoot 1,000 yards and be able to do that. Right?
I think you're absolutely right, and yeah, absolutely, you're bang on there. It's I can't stress enough. I mean, I think in today's world, with the ethics involved, with the social media aspect of people and this and that, I personally don't find the long range shooting of animals like sheep, goats, etc. Really particularly acceptable. I mean, I get it that sometimes you got to take a longer shot, but if you're one of those guys that shoots once a year, don't buy Gunworks and go out and do it. You're likely going to be disappointed. You're not doing anything. It's not respectful for the animals. I mean, really, in my mind, it's even with bears, as an example, is one of my prime ones. I go back to bear hunting, and when I first was guiding with Rod up in the Yukon, he's like, 100 yards maximum. Do not shoot those bears beyond 100 yards. And rightly so. And don't get me wrong, I think most of us, or a lot of us, are certainly capable of doing that. But you get the guy who's super excited, who's maybe it's his first time, shooting a grizzly bear or at one or whatever it happens to be. It's a bad story, man. Like I have had to finish off enough of them in my guiding career that you realize what people's personal abilities are in the heat of the moment. And I mean, hey man, I've missed some freaking chip shots at freaking deer and whatever else over the years too. So even guys that have a bit of experience behind them are gonna miss. And even Furlong said as much. I mean, it happens, right?
Yeah. Hey, so let's back it up. Your 7-SAUM Gunworks. What are you running? Is it what model Gunworks do you have? Is it?
Well, it's a climber. So yeah, it's a climber. It's one of their. It's so the cut is every year Gunworks comes out with a special edition gun. They do a limited production run of that gun or the combination, whatever it happens to be for that year. So I believe it was I ran that gun last August as well. So two years in a row. So it's 2 years old. They came out with this particular gun. It had a lighter weight carbon fiber stock than they normally have. All the same dimensions, basically. They had gone down to a slimmer carbon fiber wrap barrel. Everything on it that can be is titanium. The receiver's titanium, but more than just the regular titanium. They've got lightning cuts in the receiver and in the bolt. Titanium muzzle brake, titanium screws, etc. Titanium swivels. I mean, no, the swivels are not, because it doesn't have swivel studs. It's got cups. But yeah, basically they've lightened it up every which way possible to make it as light as possible. And I do love the gun. It took me a while, again, going back to shooting, it took me a while to get onto that gun. I've got, like I say, a couple other Gunworks, and they're all easier guns to shoot than this particular gun. But it's, other than my 300 PRC, it's the only Gunworks I've been shooting this year, and I've got her figured out. But it's just, you've got to get a feel for your firearm. I mean, it's like anything, man.
Well, I remember you talking about going to the range. You're like, fuck, like I've spent all this money, and it's just like, and then it's like, but you're working with Omer, and you're like, and Garrick too, and then you finally got it dialed. And you're like, okay, now. So it was you. It wasn't the gun. It was just like getting you dialed, right?
Well, I think more than anything, because I mean, it just didn't, because of it's just that little bit lighter, and the harmonics, whatever it happens to be, and the recoil curve. I don't know how to describe it, but it was just, you couldn't grip that gun. Like if you grip that gun, you're gonna have all sorts of weird shit going on. Like it's just one of these guns. You got to treat it like a fine lady, right? You just got to be gentle, right? You know what I mean, Kyle?
Yes, I do. So on that note, what does it weigh in at?
That one loaded with a sling it's 6 and change, buddy. But I also
loaded with the sling,
yeah,
and scope, the whole works. Oh, well, okay, that's impressive. Yeah, because that's significantly lighter. And I've heard Aaron talk about it, and he's like, he's not a big fan of those 6.5 pound guns. He just doesn't like them.
Yeah, well,
like, they're so.
Yeah, and in saying that, like this particular one's got a Leupold Vari-X 6 on it, and I may actually change it. In fact, Omer just sent me a set of rings. I'll probably put a Mark 5 on it just to get a little bit more weight over that receiver, and I put the detachable box or detachable magazine on instead of the the box magazine with a floor plate. And it added a little more. My gun's actually a little heavier than some of them. And when I say 6.5, it's probably closer to 7 pounds, but it is shy. I want to say 6 pounds, 11, 12 ounces type thing. It's not crazy light, but it's nice. I mean, I've shot a few 5.5 pound type guns, and they're even in a 708. The one I had was a 708 Ackley, and it was fucking abusive.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The VX6. What's your? Is it 4-24, the 34 mil, or what is it?
Yeah, it's the whatever it would be to 18 power.
Oh, 3-18. Because I know you had the Mark V, same one as me, and it was like 4-24 or whatever. And
yeah, you had the 5.5 25 or whatever, and I switched and went down to the 3.5 to 18 is what I did.
Yeah, and you like it better, eh? You're happier.
Yeah. I mean, certainly optically, you're going to have better light transmission through that bigger objective, the longer tube itself. I mean, the longer tube makes a big difference on light transmission. Like, again, these little things that I learned on this furlong course. So much little stuff. I was just looking for a lighter, smaller, tighter little package, right? I just wanted something that just, it just doesn't take up space, essentially, is what I was looking for. I've always liked carbine length guns because these things are all got shorter barrels. You're shooting 20-inch barrels.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, right on. Cool. What else? Any other gear talk we want to do? So you run we talked about that. Yeah.
We could talk gear all day long, buddy. But yeah, then we start getting into that. We could be another couple hours. Why don't we hit on our upcoming change of venue for our next fundraiser and moving from Kamloops to Penticton and the things that are surrounding that project.
You're super fired up about this. So am I, but I love your enthusiasm. You're jacked, man. And I'm pumped. So let's talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lay it out for me.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's as much you or more you than me, obviously, at this juncture. But yeah, I mean, we've been all over the place. We do run 2 fundraisers a year. For those of you that aren't in the loop, we do a northern fundraiser in the earlier part of February in Dawson Creek, and then we've typically run a fundraiser in the first or second week of March in Kamloops or Kelowna. As of late, it's been Kamloops. But long story short, we're excited about a move to a different venue in Penticton. In conjunction with one of the hotels, with the Lakeshore Hotel and the Penticton Convention Center, and what we've got going on there, it's we're really trying to gear it up into a solid, an even more solid event. I mean, we just keep growing leaps and bounds, and we seem to be doing, our show gets better and better all the time. I hear people say it's the of all the wildlife shows and gear and gun clubs, etc., it's the best show that people go to, and people rave about it. And it's great that we're having that impact on people's lives. But this one should be even better. So this year we're doing the convention center. We're going to have a bunch of stuff going on that you can lead into. My big thing is we've got a past director of ours now hired to help plan around a gear type event, basically. So we're going to be doing something in the convention center where hopefully we'll have 30 to 50 vendors showing us their wares, whether it's Gunworks or Snowy Mountain Rifles or Kafaru, as an example. Omer will be there with his whole array of stuff, and there's so many people. Get Durston out there with his tents and this kind of stuff, and just really build a neat experience where you can have firsthand interactions with these vendors. And again, for me, it's winters. Other than now, I live on a lake, so I can get up in the wintertime and go ice fishing and go catch burbot all night long or do whatever I want to do. But I do, over the years, it's been gear that's kept me alive, and that search for the ultimate. It keep me out of, I'm not watching TV. It keeps me out of the bar. Maybe, I don't know. But it's fun shit, right? So, and I think sheep hunting again builds that relationship between you, what you're packing on your back, and I think most of us over the years, we've started with whatever we've started with, and we've had that natural transition into where we're at today. And to see the latest and greatest gear in front of you is a real neat deal. And I think we all have a tendency to want to be at the top of that curve as far as what's the latest stuff, and I'm going to try that this year, and I'm going to run with that, etc. And I think a lot of us sheep hunters do that, anyways.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm stoked about it too. And kind of our vision that we've talked about is there's lots of trade shows out there for the outdoor industry, but not very laser focused. It's kind of like if you're a whitetail hunter, or maybe you're not
fishing.
even a hunter.
Too much fish.
Yeah, exactly. Not really a focus. And our goal with this is, people that come to our show, they're dedicated to mountain hunting, and so we want to create a mountain hunting expo or experience, and that's really what we're shooting for. What we'd like to do is, we'd like to have a big event that we have hundreds of exhibitors, and people come, and that's what they're there for. They come to, it'd be cool if that was the big draw, and our show was kind of the small part. Like right now, everyone comes to the show, and because of limitations in the Kamloops, we never really had the ability before to expand it. We have a dozen vendors, and that's kind of the best we could do. And we're super selective. We got the ones that we wanted there, but now we can really go after it. And, we've got great relationships with our conservation partners, a lot of people down south that are great, have great products. What we want to do is get them all up here to Penticton, and, you show up and you can get the latest, greatest gear. And it's really, we're hoping that this is a destination for the expo itself, let alone the sheep week or sheep show or whatever we want to call it.
It's definitely
Salute to conservation.
Add to it's just going to round out the entire experience, I think. And guaranteed we're not going to hit that 150 vendors first year out, but that growth is going to be part of the interesting side effect of the whole thing. Like it's just going to be cool watching it grow. Like, I mean, I've been around this long enough, so I've been at, I don't even know, like my kids are, again, they're 26, 20 going on 27. So I've been doing this, been involved with the Sheep Society for about 25, 26 years, right? So watching us grow from our sort of, I liken it to a gun club type sized organization into what we are today, and the funding that we're able to do, and our incremental growth it's just really cool to watch. It's like watching your kids grow up, kind of, right? Except now I'm fucking grandpa, and I say shit that I didn't say sometimes, right? So
yes, you do. That's why we like it. Right on. Well, Mike, there's a whole bunch of other stuff I want to touch on, but honestly, we've been at it for almost an hour and a half here, so let's kind of call it a day today. But let's come back, because honestly, like the whole conservation story, I love. Like the thing that gets me going is you've done this, like you said, 26, 25 plus years, and you're still here. Like, and it's not like you're just showing up and getting the pats on the back. Like there's still a ton of leadership that comes out of what you're doing there, and it's pretty bloody inspiring. I look at sort of, David's a great example. Certainly you and Chris, you're still on the board, and just and there's others too, don't get me wrong, but you and Chris being still involved, it's pretty bloody inspiring, man.
Oh, I appreciate that sentiment. I mean, I don't think it's again, this kind of conservation work isn't all easy, and you've got to have a passion for it. I mean, there's some trying times, man, and there's, as you know, we've dealt with some in the last year or so, and it's not all easy, and a lot of people really don't care. I mean, other than people within our organization that see what's going on, I don't think any of us are here for a slap on the back and a well done handshake type thing. I mean, we're here because the animals mean something to us, and because we want to see a future where our friends, family, children, grandkids, etc., actually have an animal population that's sustainable enough to actually give us a hunt. And nowadays, it's not even necessarily about having the population, but possibly about having the wherewithal to keep ahead of the antis in this fucking woke world that we live in, and keep our lifestyle sustainable.
Wow, awesome. Well said. Can't really top that for a closing, so appreciate it. We'll do this again because I want to talk about the conservation stuff, and there's a ton of gear stuff we can still talk about.
Yeah. Let's do that again. Let's do a gear talk down the road sometime, and we'll actually lay it all out, and then we can talk about it. You can point at what I've got on the floor, and we can actually have a real BS, and I'll make sure I got all my ducks in a row, so I've got all the real numbers, etc.
Well, maybe we talk nicely to Lanny and bring Melanie up and bring a bottle of whiskey and get the girls on some wine, and you and I do one in person, because those are the fun ones, right? Like, as you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time today. And honestly, man, like, thanks for all you do for wildlife conservation, the society. Just anyway, you're not one to take accolades. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time, but it's everyone gets what you do, and we're grateful. So thank you.
Right on, buddy. Appreciate it, man.